When asked whether public schools in the United States are successful or not, most people are going to give you a different answer. Some may say that schools are successful based on their personal experiences. Some may say that they're not because of the political rhetoric surrounding education and the talk of educational reform. Whichever way you fall, it's important that we first acknowledge what success is and what it isn't before discussing that. If we define success as perfection, we'd be hard-pressed to say that anything was perfect, let alone education. However, if we look at success as progress, as moving away from something worse towards something better, based on statistical data, I think we can make a clear case that American schools are in fact succeeding. We can look at three main areas to help us determine this. We can look at standardized testing and graduation rates. We can look at the treatment of students with diverse backgrounds and needs, and we can look at the response to the coronavirus pandemic. Data from the National Assessment of Educational Programs, which tracks standardized testing scores in mathematics and reading, shows that students' average scores have stayed roughly the same since 1973. While at first glance you say, how can staying the same show progress? Let's look at two things. First, consistency across the board shows that there isn't regression, which is better than nothing. And two, it shows that in light of changing standardized testing itself, standards, and political climate, that scores have stayed roughly the same shows the adaptation of the teachers as well as the students to the various changes. Next, we can look at graduation rates. Graduation rates have increased from 79% in 2010 to 86% in 2018 and 2019. With ethnic groups, apart from American Indian and Alaskan Natives, graduating in over 86%, according to the National Center for Education Statistics. Also, it's important to note that dropout rates have decreased to below 10%. And these are very important things to consider when we look at education itself in terms of data. In terms of student diversity and how those are treated, we can look at cases starting with Brown versus Board of Education and laws such as the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. Both of these have, along with many, many others, have paved the way for equality in schools. 60 years ago, students did not receive equal treatment by any means in school, and this was upheld by laws. However, today, our political system upholds the equality of students, and it's seen in the educational system. First, we can look at students with disabilities. There are specific teachers educated only to help meet their needs in the best way possible. Special education teachers receive that special training as well as general education teachers. And this is because these students should be treated in a least restrictive environment. That means that these students are given as many opportunities as possible to be involved with their peers in general education classes. In order to help assist with this, they get individualized education plans, IEPs, and 504 plans under the IDEA Act. This helps the children interact with their peers and receive the best education possible. If we look at students with diverse backgrounds, general education teachers also receive specialized training for them as well. They receive classes regularly as well as students themselves of how to best meet diverse needs. And by meeting students where they are in this way, teachers can show that they're people just like anyone else and that they deserve the best education possible. Finally, if we look at the response to the coronavirus pandemic, we can see how adaptable our school systems are. While most teachers were used to teaching in a traditional format, face-to-face with students in the classroom, some technology involved, maybe assignments are submitted that way, PowerPoints are used in class, but definitely not as the entire format. Then, in light of the coronavirus pandemic, schools made the wise decision to protect the health and safety of their students, faculty, and staff to go online for at least part of the school year in 2020 and possibly in 2021 as well. In this case, teachers showed their adaptability by being able to transition quickly to online platforms, teaching their students as if they were face-to-face, making all the additional adjustments that are needed there, as well as school systems providing, in some cases, 59% of students were able to have laptops to be able to interact online and stay home if needed. Then, once data showed that schools could be reopened, many of those teachers and educators offer those traditional classroom settings for the students who needed that learning environment while still offering online opportunities. So teachers were teaching in two formats in a way that they may never have before. So if we look at these three areas, we can see very clearly the ways in which the educational system is progressing, therefore is successful. Now, this isn't to say that it's perfect and that progress still doesn't need to be made. That doesn't mean that discrimination doesn't take place, that education doesn't need to continue to move forward. But to say that it's a failure in light of all of these circumstances is a gross misrepresentation indeed. Thank you for your time.